So another way I've seen people end up in crippling debt as adults is through car buying. So I put together this little exercise we can do to show some of the lessons that I've learned on the wrong ways and the right ways to go about buying a car as an adult. So I built this thing for a Ford F-150 Super Crew, which is the smallest size of a four-door Ford F-150. I built it for a V8. So we want to compare the right ways and the wrong ways to go about buying this vehicle. And for this sake of this exercise, usually when I talk to people, they will generally go to a dealer and buy a new car and they'll trade in their old one. So I put in for this example a 5-year-old Ford F-150 of the exact same kind with, I think, put 60,000 miles on it for this example, which is usually around 10 to 12K miles a year is what people average. So built this together for us to go through this. And if you go about this the way that the average person does and the way that kind of society encourages people to go, you'd go and you'd buy this new vehicle right out of the lot and you'd pay retail value for it at the dealer, which would come out to this fair value price. If you don't know, this is probably one of the most useful tools you'll find when it comes to buying and selling a vehicle is this KBB.com or Kelley Blue Book. Right here, you can go to price a new or used vehicle for what you want, what you're looking for if you're buying from a dealer, or you can go to My Car's Value to get either your actual vehicle's value or a used vehicle that you're looking to buy. And so for this case, first I went to the price a new vehicle to price a brand new 2024 Ford F-150, and the fair value price is 48.7. So that's what you would pay out the door at a dealer. Now let's say you were trading in your old 2019 vehicle. So let's see if I was to go to this, go to My Car's Value and go through all the way to the end of that process for the same vehicle, I would see this trade-in value. This is what the dealer would give me, is a fair trade-in value be 21K. So I'll put that in here. And so for that transaction, you'd come out of it minus $27,000, all said and done. So now let's compare that to what if instead of dealing with a dealer, we actually just did everything private party. We bought our vehicle and we sold our vehicle online, say Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something like that, which I've done quite a bit of over the years. And the thing about this is we're going to price the same vehicle as 2024, but instead of being brand new, we're going to say we're buying it used, private party with 10,000 miles on it. So if we let someone else drive it off the lot, and if you didn't know, the second you drive a brand new vehicle off the lot as the first owner, there's a massive depreciation right off the bat that happens. And if you look, a almost brand new vehicle with just 10,000 miles on it goes from $48,000 to, if you buy it private party, $38,000, literally $10,000 cheaper. So let's put this in. So just by buying our new vehicle, new quote unquote vehicle, private party, we're saving ourselves $10,000. And it's still a brand new vehicle essentially with only 10K miles. Actually, they might have done you a favor by breaking it in for you. So now, and let's say instead of trading in our old vehicle, we actually sell it private party the same way we just bought this one. So it's 2019, instead of getting 21K for trade in, we're going to go to private party value instead. And now we see $25,000. So let's put in private party value here. So now, by doing the work yourself of buying and selling private party, you've now gone down to only $13,000 is what you've paid for this full transaction out of pocket instead of $27,000. You've literally saved yourself $15,000 in this process. But there's an even better way to go about doing this. So I didn't know about this last method until I was an adult in college, and one of my veteran buddies told me about a way to get an even better deal than private party. I was a strong advocate. You see, on military bases, they'll have a parking lot, since everybody's constantly deploying all the time, they have a parking lot set up on base for soldiers to sell vehicles to each other. So I got really comfortable private party buying and selling vehicles because you had to do it pretty often in the military. And so I've done this a lot and I always swore by it compared to paying retail value and getting trade-in value. But I learned that there's actually an even better way to go about this. So if you identify the exact vehicle that you want and you narrow it down to the exact make and model and style that you're looking for, and if you can find that on a dealer lot on an off brand dealer used, that means that somebody traded that vehicle in. So, for example, I bought a Toyota Tacoma off of a Ford truck lot. That Tacoma had been sitting there for over a month. Generally, I've heard that companies don't really like other brands' vehicles, especially truck lots, having an off brand truck on their lot for a long period of time like that. And you can also know that it was traded in because they don't sell those brand new. So in this example, instead of paying this 38K, let's go look at what the trade-in value is for this vehicle. So let's say this was at let's do the inverse of what I did. Let's say this Ford truck is actually on a Toyota lot. And let's say you see it sitting there and you know then that this was a trade-in. So chances are they paid roughly trade-in value for that. And if you look at that, it would be around 34.6K. And then if you continued to just sell your old vehicle via private party, you've now gotten yourself down to $9,600 is how much you've invested in this changeover instead of $27,000. So you still get to use a dealer, which is a lot more convenient than having to deal with a private party to buy a vehicle. And so you go through all the conveniences of that, but instead, you went and offered this dealer lot that's had this vehicle sitting on it for like a month that they're trying to get rid of a fair value because that's probably roughly what they paid. You might even just add an extra keg to that just so they make some extra money on there. You could politely even add a little bit onto it if you want to get it to like 35.6, and you're still at 10.5K, 10.6K. And what I've even done in the past is if I want a very specific vehicle that I'm having a hard time finding a decent deal online at Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, I'll actually just find one at a dealer and start at this trade-in value, and I'll work my way up by kind of you have to play the dealership game a little bit, but I usually try to always be polite about it, but slowly start there and work my way up to get to about private party value because I was already getting kind of planning to spend up to private party value anyways. So if I can buy the exact vehicle that I want with the mileage that I want between trade-in and private party value from a dealer, I consider that a win. And this is a way to go about doing that and saving yourself literally tens of thousands of dollars in the end by doing so. So hopefully this gives you a really good idea of some tools that you can use to save yourself a ton of money and not end up in crippling debt from vehicles. An additional side note is I've had a ton of success with Toyotas and Hondas literally lasting forever and refusing to die. And every other brand that I've had has just fallen apart really early. So it's going to be a long time before I buy anything but a Toyota or Honda. And that's what I would personally recommend for my kids, for example, for sure.